Have you ever wondered how something as simple as connecting your wireless earbuds could actually be manipulated without you even noticing? Because behind that smooth Bluetooth experience you use every day, there's an entire trust system quietly working in the background. And when that trust is misunderstood, things can go wrong in ways most people never expect. Today, we're going to explore one of those subtle but powerful attack techniques in modern wireless security, Bluetooth impersonation, also known as bias. Welcome to Bluehat Cybersec Academy. Bluetooth has quietly become one of the most essential technologies in our daily lives. It works behind the scenes connecting wireless earbuds, smartwatches, cars, laptops, and countless IoT devices without us having to think twice about it. There are no cables, no friction, just seamless communication. But that same convenience introduces subtle security risks. One of the more sophisticated and less obvious threats is Bluetooth impersonation, also known as bias. This is not about smashing through encryption or launching noisy attacks. Instead, it's about quietly taking advantage of how trust is built and sometimes misplaced between devices. So when we talk about what bias actually is, think of it like this. Bluetooth impersonation is exactly what it sounds like. An attacker pretends to be a trusted Bluetooth device. Now consider how your phone connects to your wireless headphones. Once paired, it remembers them. The next time they're nearby, the connection often happens automatically. No prompts, no verification, no second thought. Bias takes advantage of that behavior. Instead of breaking into the connection, the attacker convinces your device that they are the trusted device. Your phone doesn't see anything suspicious because from its perspective, everything looks familiar. Now, why does bias matter so much in real-world scenarios? Bluetooth connections are often treated as safe after the first pairing. That initial setup is where most of the security checks happen. After that, devices tend to trust each other indefinitely. That assumption creates a dangerous gap. Because devices reconnect automatically, users rarely monitor Bluetooth activity, and authentication checks may not be repeated rigorously. This opens the door to unauthorized access to services, silent interception of communication, abuse of trusted device relationships, and even long-term persistence without detection. And the most important part is this. It doesn't necessarily break encryption. It bypasses trust instead. Now let's break down, step by step, how bias works at a conceptual level. When two Bluetooth devices pair for the first time, they exchange cryptographic keys, store each other's identity, and establish a trusted relationship. From that point forward, they rely on this stored trust to reconnect. No need to repeat the full authentication process every time. But then we hit the second stage, asymmetric authentication. Here's where things start to get interesting. In some Bluetooth implementations, one device properly verifies the other, but the reverse verification is weaker or even skipped entirely. This creates an imbalance. One side is checking identity carefully, while the other is making assumptions. And that asymmetry becomes an entry point. From there, we move into identity spoofing. Now imagine an attacker stepping into this gap. They mimic key aspects of a trusted device, such as identity or behavior, and attempt to initiate or intercept a connection. If the receiving device does not strictly verify both sides of the connection, it may accept the attacker as legitimate. At that point, the system is no longer communicating with the intended device. But it doesn't realize it. Then comes role manipulation. Bluetooth devices don't just connect, they also take on roles. For example, one device may act as a controller, while another acts as a responder. Some vulnerabilities allow attackers to manipulate or switch these roles in unexpected ways. If trust assumptions are tied to those roles, changing them can weaken or bypass authentication entirely. Now, stepping back from the flow, let's talk about the key weaknesses exploited by bias. First is incomplete mutual authentication. Some systems operate under an implicit belief, if I trust you, then you must also be trustworthy. But that trust is not always verified in both directions, and that's a problem. Second is legacy compatibility. Bluetooth is designed to work across generations of devices, which is great for usability but risky for security. Older, weaker authentication mechanisms may still be supported, allowing attackers to trigger fallback behaviors or use outdated security models. Third is automatic reconnection behavior. Devices reconnect automatically to save time and effort. But that also means no user confirmation, no visibility, and no second layer of scrutiny. That makes silent attacks possible. And fourth is role-based trust assumptions. When trust depends on device roles and roles can be manipulated, the entire trust model becomes fragile. An attacker doesn't need to break the system. They just need to play the right role at the right time. So what happens if a bias attack actually succeeds? The potential impact can vary, but it can include data exposure such as contacts, messages, and call logs or metadata. In some cases, device control becomes possible, allowing attackers to send commands, trigger actions, or interact with voice assistants or connected systems. There are also man-in-the-middle scenarios, where an attacker positions themselves between two devices and acts as a relay. This allows them to observe communication and potentially alter data in transit. And perhaps most concerning is persistent exploitation. Because trust is already established, the attacker may not need to repeat the attack from scratch. The system continues to remember them, which makes long-term abuse possible. Now, in real-world relevance, bias is not just theoretical. Similar vulnerabilities have been identified across smartphones, laptops, embedded systems, and IoT devices. Given how widespread Bluetooth is, even small weaknesses can scale into large risks. But detection is where things get even more challenging. Bias attacks are difficult to detect because everything appears normal. The device looks familiar, the connection behaves as expected, and there are no obvious warnings. Logs are often minimal, alerts are rare, and users are not actively monitoring Bluetooth activity. So the attack blends in quietly, which is exactly what makes it dangerous. So how do we defend against it? For users, simple habits help. Remove devices you no longer use, turn off Bluetooth when it's not needed, avoid pairing in public or untrusted environments, and keep devices updated. For developers and manufacturers, stronger design choices are essential. Enforce strict mutual authentication, remove or limit legacy fallback mechanisms, use secure and authenticated pairing methods, validate device roles carefully, and provide better visibility into connection events. For security professionals, focus areas include Bluetooth protocol analysis, authentication flow validation, reconnection logic review, and detection of unexpected role behavior. Because ultimately, security is about identifying where trust assumptions break down. Now, stepping back again, the bigger picture here is important. Bias highlights something fundamental about cybersecurity. The biggest weaknesses are not always in encryption. They are often in how systems define and maintain trust. As devices become more interconnected, trust can no longer be static. It has to be continuously verified, carefully designed, and constantly questioned. So to bring everything together, a Bluetooth impersonation or bias is a subtle but impactful attack that exploits trust rather than breaking cryptography. By mimicking trusted devices and leveraging gaps in authentication, attackers can gain access without triggering alarms. And that leads us to the key takeaway. Security is not just about locking doors. It's about making sure you always know who is on the other side. Now here's your challenge. If a device reconnects automatically without asking for confirmation, how would you verify that it is still the original trusted device? Think about that. And now a few questions to test your understanding. Why do you think Bluetooth systems prioritize convenience over strict authentication after pairing? Where do you see the biggest real-world risk of impersonation phones, cars, or IoT devices? And most importantly, how would you redesign Bluetooth trust to prevent identity spoofing? If you followed along till here, you're already building a strong foundation in advanced exploitation concepts from the Advanced Hacking series. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stay connected with Bluehat Cybersec Academy for more deep dives like this. See you in the next one.